Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 172nd episode of the Spiritual Brainstorm. I just got back from watching the Disney movie Wish with my kids. And it's funny because it just resonates so much with the previous episode, which I encourage you to watch on masculine and feminine energy and the rebalancing, because there's really something linked to that. No spoilers. A spoiler alert, by the way. I'm not going to detail the plot of the whole movie, but I'm going to do a kind of more spiritual or meta analysis of what's going on in the movie. So if you didn't see it yet and you don't want to be spoiled, then don't watch this episode and watch the movie because I will be talking about the content. So, in the previous episode, the 171st episode of the Spiritual Brainstorm, was talking about this rebalancing of masculine and feminine energy and women being able to realize their ideas without having to wait for the masculine's permission, basically, to express themselves and whatever. And that's one underlying, plot in the movie Wish, where this king is kind of in control of all of the wishes of society, and he's the only one that can realize them. People can't, have to go through that kind of authority figure. But the analysis is a bit more deep in this sense. So, like symbolically speaking, there are some very interesting and very good kind of things that Disney have made in this movie. One passage that I really like is when she's like wishing upon the star comes down to earth to help her fulfill her wish. And then all the animals start talking, and then she's like, how can you talk? And what's this all about? And where does the magic come from? And then they go into the song where they're saying, we're all stars. We come from the stars. We have a star in our heart. And that resonates a lot because obviously, if you watch this whole series, then you know that when I had my spiritual awakening 5 years ago, I had this intuition that we are, in fact, a black hole without knowing it. We're just a black hole, and we are, giving this in this human form. We're in this illusion of being human, when in fact we are a black hole. Like that's the essence behind the form, and then we're just playing at being human, or that we're like a fragment of consciousness from these higher kind of consciousnesses, which are stars. It's like stars from multiple solar systems across the galaxy wanted to harbor life in their respective solar systems, but they wanted to have experience with life first before creating life in their respective solar systems in order for life to be balanced. And so they project their consciousnesses on Earth, where they'll have all experiences, genocides, love, hate, everything, from the most extreme to the most beautiful. And given that kind of experience, then they'll be able to create something beautiful and calibrated and sort of, without too many flaws in their respective solar systems, thanks to all of that experience. So this idea that we're all stars and all that stuff resonated really much, a lot. Then, so the whole idea is that there's this king that when people turn 18, they have to tap into their hearts. Their heart is their deepest wish, and they give it to the king for safekeeping, but they forget it. So they just live their lives hoping that the king at some point will grant them their wish. Like every month he does this meeting, and then he says, okay, well, I'm granting you your wish. And the whole rationale he explains is that, well, he can't just grant any wish. He has to make sure that the wish that you grant isn't going to wreak havoc in society. And that's very deep and profound, because ultimately, if you look at society's relationship to a higher authority like governments, these kinds of higher social structures or institutions that we've created are the mediators between our aspirations and dreams as citizens and what can or cannot be fulfilled. Because if you want to, build your McMansion, you need to make sure you have property titles, you have building permits, you have all kinds of things that are like checklists, abide by, what is it, environmental laws and regulations and all kinds of other conditions. And so it's like the government and all the regulations and laws that we've kind of built in society are kind of like the filter for allowing certain people to fulfill their wish or to have it like shoved on the side because it doesn't meet certain requirements and standards. And you may think, well, that's unjust and whatever, but it's just a kind of normal process that is just a fractal projection of the way a human grows in his household with his parents. The parents also serve as mediators between a child's wish and what he can actually have. So, if a child says, well, I want to jump off the cliff because I want to know what it is to fly, the parents will say, no, no way. And some parents will be a little bit unreasonable in some sense because of their own fears of what might happen. Like, for instance, a child says, my dream is to be a mountain climber. And the parents are like, already see him, falling off a cliff and dying. And they're like, no way in hell. And that's just like the mechanics. That's just how it is, in life, where some parents are more lenient, others are not. And they serve as the kind of censors for what dreams can or cannot be fulfilled. And then as you grow up as a child to an adolescent to a young adult, and this is the part of the movie where it was kind of, Disney went kind of off the rails, but it may have a deeper meaning also, is that when you're a child, you're kind of upset, but there's nothing you can really do about it. When you're an adolescent, then you might enter into a power struggle and confrontation with your parents when they say you can't do this or can't do that. Just like this king in Wish says, you cannot have your wish fulfilled because it's dangerous or whatever. And, society says, no, why not? That's unjust and it's not fair. And they may go into confrontation with the king or the governments and ask for a reform of the laws or a change of government and whatever, or do a revolution even, which is kind of the plot of the movie, which is like these, a few citizens, Asha and her friends, that foment a revolution to overthrow the king, helped by the queen, by the way, which is kind of like this, benevolent, nice kind of women, and also symbolizes like this, freeing of the feminine energy, detached from this masculine kind of, patriarchal relationship. But it's still an immature kind of process, which is it's still an adolescent living in his parents' kingdom or household that try to cut the head of the king and impose their own rules via this kind of pyramidal structure of power. Whereas the idea is actually when you transcend this kind of adolescence rebellion where you're trying to take over your parents' household, you integrate what you've learned from your parents, and you no longer require their filtering mechanism or their filtering rules for deciding which ones of your wishes should or should not be realized. That comes back to my previous video, episode 171, where an adolescent, is still in this power relationship where like, I'm going to fulfill my dreams because I decided and whatever. Still a bit immature because he may, commit or do a lot of mistakes, and, find himself like, well, my parents said that I cannot get drunk, but I'm going to get drunk because I'm strong and I can handle blah, blah, blah. And then they call at 3 a.m, completely drunk from the hospital, with falling into a coma. Mommy, daddy, please come and help me. So that's typical teenager. Young adult is, the stage where you've integrated into yourself the whole wisdom and process of like governmental rules and why there are all these regulations there, and understand that, if they weren't there, that there may be abuses and people may build McMansions that don't respect environmental, considerations, or, don't care for or violate their neighbors', freedom by doing all that. And so the government is there to sort of create a kind of a framework for all of those wishes to quote unquote harmonize. But it creates a lot of frustration, just like in a household, when you have multiple kids that have different wishes that are contradictory, the parents are the ones that decide, like this. And then eventually, when they're young adults, they don't need their parents' mediation anymore to express their desires and their wishes and come to a collective decision, or how to go about fulfilling their desires and their dreams without stepping on each other's toes. And so, in that sense, that's where the movie Wish to me, kind of got derailed a bit, because it went again in this kind of, the teenager society against daddy, oppressive daddy, the king, which you overthrow and take the power away from him. But that's not true freedom. That is just the freedom to be an irresponsible teenager and do what the hell you want, but and using violence and opposition. Whereas the young adult stage is the society doesn't need to overthrow anyone. It reclaims freedom again from within by integrating daddy's concerns and understanding daddy's concerns of, oh, some wishes may actually be detrimental to society. I understand, but I don't need you as a mediator to decide what is harmful or not anymore, because I've integrated your rules and transcended them, which is you understand all of the rules, but you can even improve on those rules based on all of the lessons learned, all the wisdom gathered, and all that stuff. It's not like throwing away everything, and it's not blindly replicating what your parents told you or what daddy the state is saying. It is integrating all of the wisdom gathered through all of those experiences and then magnifying it and improving upon it. And also integrating it inside of you, right? It's something that is inside now. You've swallowed up that authority, you've put it inside yourself. And so you are your own parent, quote unquote. So as a young adult, and especially as an adult, when you do something, your mind already knows, okay, this are maybe the potential consequences. This is how it's going to affect others. Is it really a good idea that I do that, even though I want to? Maybe I first need to go and mediate between people and whatever. And so in the movie Wish, the message may be that, and this is maybe a message for me, is that maybe we are still at a stage of like society as a whole, maybe an adolescent, and I'm just way, way ahead of my time when I'm talking about all of these things of like how a young adult emancipates from his parents and all that stuff. Maybe that's not at all the stage at which society is. And, I'm kind of like Jean-Jacques Rousseau, writing about democracy in 1760 or whatever, 30 years before the French Revolution, or even before. And, these are just very etheric ideas, but that cannot ground or manifest because just the consciousnesses are not ready, which is very frustrating to me, because I would like to live in that kind of world where citizens gradually reclaim sovereignty from daddy the state, in self-organizing decentralized communities using all kinds of technologies like blockchain and have this nice smooth transition from a pyramidal structure of power to a decentralized one. But maybe I'm just too early. Maybe people are still in this kind of, like in the movie Wish mentality, where they're still trying to overthrow the king and say, the kind of almost a libertarian, a naive, immature libertarian approach of like, screw daddy the state, and if everybody had their wish come true, it would be paradise here. But the libertarians always underestimate how power sort of creeps back in, and how they're okay with having no daddy the state so long as they're the winners. And when they're the losers, of course, which is typically the left-right kind of paradigm, when they're the losers, then they ask for daddy the state to step in. And it's like, typical household relationship of like brothers and sisters, like the brothers and sisters that have it good, that have the best life or the best room or the best whatever. They're very happy with like daddy and whatever to be non-interventionist, and so they can keep what they have. And then the brothers and sisters that are on the losing end, that I don't know, like don't have all the privileges, whatnot, are trying to convince daddy to be more strong and to make equality reign in the household. So we're still in this kind of teenager phase. I guess from what I gather from the Wish movie, um, I would have wished for a different ending. Where basically, the citizens kind of rise up and show Daddy the State or the King that they don't need his censorship in terms of deciding what wishes can be granted or not, because they are mature enough to filter their own wishes and not wish for something that would be detrimental to society, and do it in a peaceful way without having to like imprison him in this kind of magical scepter or whatever, and put him into a dungeon, which is like this teenager fantasy of like twisting the arm of your dad and winning over in this power struggle, and haha, I beat my parents. Like a young adult is not in that kind of mindset at all. It's like, oh, thank you, Dad, thank you, Mom, for everything that you've given me, all the way, all the wisdom, all the and now I'm ready to live my life responsibly. And it's not about locking them up in their own house in the basement and then being the master of the household. um, so yeah, I hope you found my kind of spiritual analysis or symbolic analysis of the movie Wish interesting. If you liked it, don't hesitate to share, like, subscribe, the usual, and don't hesitate to leave a comment, and talk to you in the next episode. Bye, guys.